What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Procreate tutorial where today we're going to create a misty little stream / river design. Now, as always, there's links to everything you're going to need for today's design in the description down below under the requirements. That will take you to my Patreon where you can grab all of the requirements completely for free. You don't need to be a patron, you just need to go over there to grab the resources for today's design, which is the canvas size, the palette, and everything else is built into Procreate, as well as the guide as well. You'll need the guide. While you're there, check it out because that's where I post 3 exclusive tutorials every single month to my Patreon supporters, and there's a catalogue of over 160 Patreon exclusive tutorials that are not available here on YouTube. They are only available over there on Patreon. So with all that said, enjoy today's tutorial and let's get started. So once you've created your canvas like mine, you're going to want to go ahead and add in the guide. And to do that, you just need to download the image that I've provided, go to the Add tab and hit the option of Insert Photo or File, depending on where you save the image to. Then you just need to go up to your layers, and if you tap on the layer and tap on rename, you can call it guide, and then that way you just know not to delete it, you can work around it. Let's then go ahead and create a new layer. Let's drag it underneath the guide. Let's go to our colors, and we're going to go ahead and grab this color here, top of the 4th column or 5th column, drag it onto the screen, then grab your cursor, tap on freeform, and then drag that down so you match up to the horizon there on the guide. So you see this line here, that's what we need to drag this up towards. Lovely stuff. And then tap on our cursor when we're done. If I ever go too fast, tap on the video, go up to the top right up here and go to settings, and then change my speed in the playback speed option. You can drop me down 10%, 20%, whatever you need to match up to your pace. Now we're going to go ahead and just create some simple layers before we carry on. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. Let's go to our colors, and we're going to go ahead and work the middle of the first column. Brush wants to be set to the Elphinstone brush, so you need to be in the Procreate library, not the classic library, the Procreate library. Go to pens and Elphinstone. Feel free to use any other solid kind of brush though that you prefer. And from there, we're going to draw in some of the basic land shapes so they come down towards the water's edge. Again, you've got your guide, so it's super easy, and then just go whoop, straight across, go quite fast with it really. Drag and drop your color in. Then we're going to create another new layer. Work on the one in front, so you want to bring that down towards the water's edge and then go around. Now, try to do it as fast as you can so you get a nice smooth line, but also, you kind of need to match up to the guide. So drag and drop when you're done. And then create another new layer. Let's work over here now. Now we've got kind of 2 hillsides to work in. So the first one, we'll just go ahead and kind of just draw in this kind of shape here. And then I'm just going to redo that. And then I'm going to go up the land, and then up and in behind, a little something like this. And then I'm going to go round here and then follow the guide all the way off to the right, drag and drop my color in. And I just want to kind of round this one off as well, so it kind of matches up a little bit more aesthetically to the other ones. There we go, a little bit more of a rounded edge on there. And yeah, there we go. So we've done all the kind of foreground layers. Let's start working in behind and then make our way forward. So let's create a new layer and drag it all the way underneath our big block, which is essentially the water. We're then going to go ahead and go to our colors and go to the bottom right of the palette, drag it onto the screen. That is very similar, if not the same. We're then going to go to our brush. We're going to go to the options of basics and forester brush. It's basically a soft airbrush. And if we go to our colors and grab the middle of the first column, far right column, shall I say, let's then set the brush size to something fairly large, around about, say, I reckon about 40%. We want to create a lovely gradient in our sky. So we're going to work back here. Now, bear in mind, that's where your sun's going to be in your mountains. We do want to, of course, start to work above that. So as you start to get a little bit further up, you want to get really light with your pressure. Make sure you go horizontal as best as you can, and then just blend that up and into the blue above. So you end up with a lovely gradient running across your sky. Again, I'm just trying to make sure it's nice and horizontal. You can do it over and over again. Like, feel free just to start again if needs be, but go to your colors and go top right of the palette. And then let's work in the orange. It's going to sit in behind there as well, creating again a lovely gradient, super light strokes, just to kind of blend the orange into the pink and then into the blue. And then you want to go to your colors and grab the yellow, top of the second column from the right, probably go a bit smaller though, about 25%, and just in behind your mountains, just a little bit more that yellow tone, just blending in behind there. There we go. So we've got a lovely kind of triple gradient happening. If you ever need to as well with gradients, you can always go up to your adjustments and go to Gaussian blur, and then swipe from left to right and get a softer blur. Sometimes it just reduces the the opacity of the colors though a little bit, like the saturation, should I say. So if it does, and you do want to blur your colors together a bit more, like 20%, just go up to your adjustments again and go to hue, saturation, and brightness, and just crank up the saturation should you need to. But I'm going to undo the blur. I was pretty happy with how that worked out. Next up, we're going to go ahead and draw in a layer in front of that. So let's create a new layer. And then while you're here, just go ahead and swipe from left to right on these and group them together. This is important for later. So in this group, we're going to create some clouds up here. So we're going to go ahead and go to our actions. We're going to go to canvas. We're going to go to drawing guide and turn that on. And we're going to edit the drawing guide. Don't worry about your grid size. Just set it honestly to anything, just as long as you can see the grid, and hit the tick. Then go ahead and go back to your layer, tap on it and add the drawing assist to it. So now it says assisted on there. What that will allow us to do is if we go up to our colors and we grab the middle of the third column from the right, if we go back to our brush and we go back to the very top, recents and elphinstone, I've got the marker set to 32% there. And we're just going to draw in some very simple lines running across our sky. So some simple lines in here. Now at the minute, these lines here are very hard to see. So we actually need to go ahead and change the blend mode. We need to go back to the layer, tap on it, and change the blend mode to the option of overlay. That will then change the color depending on where you are adding it to. So for example, like, it'll be a little bit more pink in some areas. It'll be a little bit more yellow perhaps in the distance down here. So I'm just going to run in some lines, just running across our sky, just very simple kind of nods towards some elements up here, and then another one maybe a little bit higher than that. Maybe we'll go a little bit shorter and a little bit higher. There we go. Then you want to go to the layer and tap on it and turn off the drawing assist, because we want to add in some fluffiness to these clouds. So with the 32% brush size, you can just press and create like a little bit of a wobble, and then let that kind of fade back into the line like so. Some very, very simple clouds. They're some of my favorite types to create. Find a line, you don't have to do all of them, but just like a little area of kind of fluff, and then let the streak take over. Very, very simply done. Again, some of my favorite attempts at clouds, just super simple. Clouds can be extremely difficult, so to find a variation that you find that you really enjoy and it's quite simple to do is really rewarding. That looks great. Very happy with that. A little bit right-sided, but maybe I can come back to it later should I feel necessary. Let's then go ahead and create another new layer. Go to your colors. You want to be grabbing we want a really light tone. So we're going to go to the bottom of the second column there. Now you kind of want a solid brush here. So you could switch back to calligraphy. You can try your best with the elphinstone just to keep your pressure the same. Or you can just go up to your selection tool and go to eclipse here and tap on color fill and then draw in a circle. But it's a bit trickier to get a perfect circle. Not that you need a perfect circle, but something like that when you let go and then use your cursor just to make it the same dimensions. You can see if I move it, you can see the dimensions in the top right there. There you go, 199 by 199. And I can tap on my cursor when I'm done. And I'm happy with the positioning as well. Let's then go ahead then and move into the mountains. So we're staying in this group because we're going to use this group in a minute to make the reflection really easy. So with this new layer, we're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab this color here, top of the third column from the right. Sticking with the elphinstone, we're going to work up here off of this mountain peak. One quick swoop across the screen like so. And then you can go ahead and run one down into there. I'm going to do off there. And I'm going to go all the way off to the top. They're like almost quite angular. But you can add some curve in there if you want to. I can swoop that one down maybe a little bit better. And maybe even just change them up ever so slightly on their peaks, just to give them some sort of additional kind of character. But honestly, it's not really necessary. Now, as long as you've gone edge to edge, you can drag and drop your color in, of course, and again into any other gaps that you may or may not have made. And then from there, you want to go ahead and create another new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it to your mountains. If you go to your colors then, you want to go ahead and start to work in the yellow at the top of the second column from the right. And then where you've got your lines here running down, feel free to turn off your guide if you feel is necessary. You can then run that line down here and then up a little bit just to kind of maybe just blanket in some lighting on the side of your mountain. And then feel free again just to switch between the guide being on and off, because I have introduced additional lines here just to introduce some additional kind of mountain in here. So you can draw a line in there and then maybe like another swoop, maybe off like there perhaps. And then again, I just want to do the right side now of this mountain that faces down in towards our light source there in the middle. And you can also add some over here too. So that's why I've introduced this line as well. You know, you can just run that up onto there and then maybe, you know, find additional little bits of detail that you can add. But if I turn off my guide, you'll get an unobstructed view of my mountain lines there. So there you go. Feel free to pause if you need to. In fact, I'll even add in another little bit of detail perhaps, like just over here on this right-hand side, or left-hand side, should I say. There we go. So from there, we can then go ahead and tap on the base shape below. We can tap on it and alpha lock it so we can't paint outside of it. If we go to our colors and we grab the middle of the third column from the right, we want to go back to our brush and forester brush again. And the brush size probably around about, let's go a bit smaller than that, I reckon about 10%. In the center, you want to go around in a circular motion, wider and wider and wider, until your mountains and whatnot in the center especially get this lovely gradient of color. So you end up with like the dark tone living over there, and then you end up with a beautiful bit of color on the inside here where our sun is. If you then go to your colors and go to the bottom of the same column, bottom of that third column from the right, again, just in the center, it's a little bit more yellow this time, and not quite as far as the previous color, but you're blending. That's a lot of kind of what we've already done so far. We've created a gradient, we blended it out, and then we're doing a very similar process here now. Now you can keep this fairly simple. Otherwise, you can go back to the base color, top of the third column from the right, and then you can just introduce some shadows if you want to separate these shapes. So you could, for instance, create like a shadow, like bring that purple back up and into here, perhaps, so that you kind of separate these mountainous layers to one another. So you create some separation and variety. So like that mountain there kind of sits in. And then to be honest with you, it's probably the only thing I would do. But you almost create like two separate shapes by just adding in a little bit of separation in between them. Now, apologies if the colors are super faint. I will always do my best in my editing afterwards to make sure that the colors are as accurate as possible to what I actually see on screen at the time. But of course, just follow along with the colors as they are meant to be. You'll create the design as intended, of course, to be. Next up, let's start moving in front of that. So when you're done, you can pinch those lines to your mountain. So your mountain is all on one layer. Create a new layer again. Go to your colors. We want to grab this color here, top of the second column. And we want the Elphinstone brush back again. So recent and Elphinstone. And then if we bring back in our guide, on the guide, you'll be able to see like the tree line, etc. But also there's like this line here that drops ever so slightly below what is essentially our little water here. So I'm just going to go ahead and we need to sort of add that layer in. Now, technically this layer also needs to sit above the water here. So it's now in front of the big block of water. And I can just go ahead and go along that horizon-ish. Like I don't want to make it perfect. There we go, like a little bit of a curve to it. That's cool. All the way off to the left-hand side. And then I'll just sort of bring in like a bit of a hillside down, a little bit up again. And then I'll just fill in any gaps like so. And then that just gives me like a bit of a snowy kind of banking on in the distance, a little bit sort of on our horizon. You know, I can maybe make it a little bit more interesting. Nothing too like detailed though, because it is so far back in our design. So something like that is going to do the trick. Then we can go ahead and add in the option of our tree line. So the tree line needs to sit in behind the layer we were just working on. And it could go in our mountain group over here, our sort of background. So I'll create a new layer again. In our little group, I'll go to my colors. We then want to go ahead and work in some background tones, which is going to be the top of the fourth column from the right. Now take a look at this line here. This is going to be our tree line in the distance. All you need to do, and I really do mean this, is wiggle your pen up and down as long as you sort of create like a bit of a top of a forest almost, like lots of little trees. Wiggle your pen all the way, like zigzagging. And then once you get over to here, you can just basically color in the bottom. And then over here should be covered up anyway. So I'm just going to drag that out. I'll just make sure that I fill in all the gaps and then go all the way off to the right, coloring it in. And I'm trying at the minute to also always show you like the simplest way to somewhat sort of do these things. And honestly, that is as simple as you need, especially when you zoom all the way out. You know that that's meant to be a tree line. That's all it needs to be. By all means, though, you can get in here now and start to detail if you wish. Like you've done like 90% of the work now. You can then get in there and just adjust some of them. You can like add in like horizontal branches and stuff if you feel like it's necessary. If you followed a few of my more recent tutorials, you'll know exactly all the kind of things to sort of bear in mind, that like, you know, you can add like a few horizontal lines, which immediately breaks up this kind of illusion that it's a scribbly line. Like it just adds in enough detail and it just looks like, oh yeah, that's just a big cluster of trees in the distance. So I'm just drawing in like occasional little lines and then horizontal lines to indicate kind of branches. I don't want to draw too many though, and I don't want it to be too detailed. It's so far back in our design. It's just areas like over here where I could definitely do with, you know, breaking up that kind of zigzag line a little bit more, seeing if there's like additional kind of just a little something just to break up the continuous styling of it. So there we go, just like a little bit in there too. A little bit maybe over here just in case this is visible, because we're going to add trees in front of this, but yeah, they might cover up quite a bit. There we go, that's all we want to do. Lovely stuff. Let's then go ahead and work in front of this, but with a more detailed set of trees. So we're going to create another new layer. We're going to go to our colors and grab the middle of the same column, so middle of the fourth column there from the right. And then over here, use this as a guide. We've got like two trees side by side, but you've got this one here. I'm going to press really lightly. Still got the 32% marker. It never changes. It's because it's pressure sensitive. I can pick and choose. And then from there, I'm just going to go down it using the guide of this sort of general shape, and look like little flick outs just to create the branches. If I zoom out and then sort of, zoom in and rotate round, because I find this the more comfortable way to go from left to right to create these little flicks. It might be the same for you. Like if you flip your canvas upside down, you might find it a hell of a lot easier. So there you go, just a very simple tree already done. And that's all I want you to do for this kind of distant area. Over here, we've got like two trees right next to each other. We'll do those. So let's go ahead and draw in like a straight line down as your tree trunk. Let's draw them fairly close together. That's fine by me, I don't mind. And let's go ahead and draw in all the branches. So, you know, with these, you can press really lightly, leave gaps towards the top end. It'll look really lovely and sort of realistic. And then as you get further down, you can be a little bit sort of firmer with your pressure. And all they are is just lots and lots of little flick outs. And I can do it this way, but I get a very different result compared to the opposite side. But sometimes that's not a bad thing. That will give you some unique look on either side. So a couple more flicks all over the place. And then here we'll do the same. So we'll create like the flicks down. I tend to find it easier to start at the top. I can see where I'm going with the tree. I can leave gaps. I can work it all out. And then I can just get chunkier and simpler, a lot simpler towards the bottom in comparison. So just little flicks, using the thinness of the taper on the end as you make your way up and down the tree, gives you that thin end to make it quite nice and branchy almost. Now, to be honest with you, once you've done those, you're pretty much good to go. I mean, I'm probably going to connect those together just a tiny bit more. There we go, just a little bit so that they're a bit chunkier together. And then I'm just going to be cheeky and just swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Grab my cursor and flip it horizontally. Move it over towards the left-hand side. So somewhere over here, I want to start to think about, you know, covering up where the tree line that tree line in behind starts to come to a more simple end. I can put some trees in the way. And then I want to make sure that this tree is ever so slightly off to the left. So I'll drop it there, but I can always go ahead and grab my selection tool and turn off color fill. I can turn on rectangle and just make a selection around that tree. Now I've done that, I can go to my cursor and I can just move it. There we go. Simply done. And then we can just keep repeating. I think we could swipe that to the left and duplicate it again. Grab my cursor, move it all the way over towards the left-hand side, perhaps make that a little bit larger. It's always a crime in Procreate to make things a little bit larger, but honestly, I think that should be okay. I think no one should chase after us, I don't think. And what we'll do is we'll actually flip it horizontal and we'll move it over here. I'm not worried about that tree there that gets lost and off the edge of the canvas, which will get cropped out. You know, I'm just trying to build up a little bit more of a scene in the distance. And what I could do is go back to like any one of the previous layers, grab my selection tool again. So I'm just going to select this tree, make a selection around it. If I use the option of copy paste, it pastes in a whole new version of it on a new layer. And I can just manipulate this one now, put it a little bit sort of purposefully across my scene, and then just build up a few more trees. So I can just scale that down in size maybe. There we go, put that there. Lovely stuff. So now what I urge you to do is if you can keep hold of your original first lot of trees, like this layer here, pinch the other ones together into one layer, just to save on your layers a little bit. Because by keeping hold of one layer, you can then have the control to go back in and grab more if you need it. Now let's create a new layer in this group again towards the top, but then we're going to switch to a darker tone this time. So we're going to move to the bottom now of the fourth column from the right, and we're going to add in our slightly darker trees. Now these ones in fact need to go again up and out of this group. So I'm going to hold down on the group or the layer and move it up and above in front of our little bit of snow here in the distance. I'm just in front of that layer. We're then going to work in some trees that are going to be a lot taller, and also they're going to sit on the land, so you just need to be aware of that. So just kind of chunk out the bottom of your line a little bit more. Don't worry about it sort of looking weird, because again, just like before, we're going to sort of create lots and lots of little kind of flick offs. These ones now you kind of want to start to think about kind of leaning on the detail a little bit more, like, you know, just trying to maybe make it look a little bit more detailed in comparison to perhaps what you maybe did in the distance. Now, I don't know what you've drawn. You may have absolutely gone to town and drawn all of the detail in the previous ones. And if that's the case, just keep that up. If you kept them simple, a little bit more so like I did, I now need to just, you know, add in, as I make a branch outwards, maybe I'll make a branch that just kind of flows off of that as well, to add in like that little bit of natural messiness to the tree. And also that's a fairly skinny one, which I quite like, to be honest with you. I quite like how simple that they can look at times. You know, I could maybe make it a little bit wider perhaps towards the bottom. Also, you'll notice towards the top end, they're pointing downwards a little bit as well. They've got a little bit more of a swoop at the bottom, at the top, like swooping down, because they just get a little bit heavier because of all like the snow and the weather perhaps. And then again, once you've done that, we're going to just create another new layer, but this one will be one that we also duplicate as well, but I want to make sure it's on its own separate layer. So over here, there is a sort of idea for a tree here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it just slightly to the left of it. I'm going to draw in another tree down into, in fact, to be honest with you, you could probably just drop all the way in behind there. That's fine by me. And then again, I'm going to make this one, and I'm going to try to factor in the detail level. Because again, this is going to be one that we duplicate. I don't want you to draw in every single tree. I mean, feel free. If you are enjoying yourself and you are just want the practice, draw in every single tree if you want. By the time you see mine in a second, and the layout for the landscape, you may or may not want to draw in every single tree just for the practice. But if you don't always need to with Procreate. We've got a lovely amount of tools at our disposal, so we can just make life a little bit easier. I'm just going to make my way down the tree, rotating constantly, just simply because it just makes it more comfortable with the hand motion. We all have a particular flick and a flow with your drawings, and that is exactly what I'm doing. It's just rotating to find the angle to best suit the area that I'm drawing in, and that's for loads of different things. So sometimes that can maybe be a bit frustrating to watch perhaps, but it's very natural for me to do so. There we go. So we've got another tree done. Then we can just duplicate. So we'll swipe this one to the left and duplicate it. I'll grab my cursor and I'll flip it horizontally, not vertically. We don't want an upside down tree. I'll use uniform, and I will scale it up in size a little bit. Again, bit of a crime, but it's okay. I'm going to chuck this one way over here on the right hand side if possible. And I may even sort of either draw in another one there, or even on this layer, just kind of make it a little bit wider maybe, just to get them a bit closer to one another. Just a little bit. And then we can duplicate the other trees as well. Swipe that to the left and duplicate it. Move that across to the left-hand side of our canvas. And you can find a spot, honestly, it can be just in front as well of your trees in the background. It's okay. It's about creating like density. I made it a little bit taller too. I've duplicated it again, and I'm going to make it a bit bigger and chuck it right in behind here, off to the left-hand side of my screen. And then I'll go ahead and grab that one again. So let's find the layer for that one, which I think is this one. It is. I'll duplicate that, grab my cursor. So all I'm trying to do is just build up a forest-like kind of impression. That's all we're trying to do. So don't sort of stress about sort of how fast maybe I'm like duplicating layers and moving them. It's just, you'll see the final result. And then when you do, just try and sort of lay things out a little bit similar to that. Now I'm going to duplicate that tree one more time, and I'm going to stick it right close to this one here. I might even, let's see what looks best. I reckon maybe a little bit lower, maybe a smidge taller. I want it to kind of sit, maybe I want it to be a little bit higher and over there, which in turn means I could probably go back down to that previous layer, grab the trees that I've positioned right in behind here, which are fine to be there, but I do want to maybe just move them then based off of the trees in front. I think, do you know what, actually, I think they might have been fine the first time. Just an option for you then, perhaps, if you need to. I'm going to keep it as simple as that. I'm not going to add in too much more. What we will do, though, is, again, keep hold of any trees that you may or may not want. Otherwise, if you're happy like I am, just pinch them all together. It's no problem. Now, the layer here for the snow, the little banking, let's tap on that and add the alpha lock to it. Let's then go to our colors. Let's then go ahead and go to our set of sort of brighter tones, which is going to be the middle here of the second column. Brush wants to be set back to the Forester brush. And with a brush size probably close to around about 8%, just work out where your sun is and go left to right, adding in a bit of a brighter spot there in the middle of our snowy banking. And then go to your colors again and grab the bottom of the same column. And then just a little bit of yellow now in the middle more so. So you end up with a slightly brighter spot sat in the center. Now that is your kind of distant area all done. So if we turn off our guide and these three banks up here, so you end up with this, what you can then do is tap on this area here for your big block of water, essentially, or little stream. Create a new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it. Tap away. Swipe down with 3 fingers and go to copy all. Swipe down with 3 fingers again and go to paste. And then it will have sort of replaced that empty layer that we just made. And then flip it vertically. Use freeform and just kind of squish it down just a little bit. You can go down to kind of around about 1400, somewhere around that. It's a little bit flatter. If I then go ahead and move across, I've just finished that. If I turn on my layers here and then go back to this layer, so grab my cursor and just move it down, I can then start to align the horizon a bit more, but also just move everything a little bit further down and see where it all fits. And I'm really happy with how that looks. So I'm going to tap on my cursor when I'm done. Now, we want to kind of make sure there's some shadows here. So I'm going to create a new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it. I'm going to go to my colors and grab the top of the first column. Your brush wants to be set to the Forester still. You do want a bit of a smaller size though, around about 6%. And then if not smaller than that, to be honest with you, but let's go 5, let's go right in the middle. And then we just want to sort of shadow down here because the light wouldn't stretch that far. So we can definitely sort of darken up over here into our little bit of water. But I do want there to be a nice consistent shadow around the edge of the land as well. So I can just push in a shadow like so, just tucking that in, and I can make it fairly firm as well. Like I can make like a pretty harsh, bold shadow line there. And then we're going to do the same over here too. So we're going to tuck in the light into here. Look how firm I was straight away there. I'm going to go down to like a 3%, go right to the edge of the land. And then once you've made your sort of main little bit of a shadow, you can then kind of go with a 4% and kind of blend that down a little bit, creating, that's too heavy, way too heavy. Just creating a bit of a drag down shadow in there. And then same over here too. Just bring your brush size down though to like a 2% now because it's quite far back. Get that bold line in on the underside and off to the left as well. There we go, and just tuck that shadow into there. But you should then start to separate everything, raise it up. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the brush size a bit bigger again to about 7%, because down here we can basically just kind of just blend this out, making it a little bit more blue in this corner down here. Perhaps a little bit more blue over here too, just very lightly, just allowing that sun just to sit more central in our scene. While we're working on the water, let's go ahead and create a new layer. Tap on it, clipping mask it, tap on it, and then drawing assist it. Then go to your colors. You want to go ahead and grab the yellow in the bottom of the second column. Brush wants to be set to the Elfinstone, 32% still. you're just going to go ahead and use the drawing assist so you can go horizontal through the water on top of some of those shadows is fine. Just adding in a little bit of water trickle in here. A few little lines here and there. Very, very simple. Just makes it so that we are fully aware it is, of course, water. And then you can go ahead and tap on the layer and turn off the drawing assist. Go to your colors and we can work in this blue here, bottom of the fourth column or fifth column there. And then we're going to just add in like a little bit of a kind of outline to your land. So you're going to go kind of a little bit along its edge and then a little bit flowing off from there and then a little bit around there. Likewise, we'll do the same around here too. So I'll just create like a curve. I'll fill that in, that's fine. Doesn't need to be perfect nor either. And then I can go along the edge. There we go, just to kind of add in a little bit of separation. And then up here, do the same, just a little bit of an outline. A couple of lines flowing inwards will be fine, but just separates it a bit more. Maybe even adds like a snowy element to, like maybe the stream is frozen perhaps. So it adds in just a little bit of extra. Let's then add in some larger trees that are going to be far more kind of focus driven, like they're going to be our main focal subjects almost. So turn on your guide and then create a new layer underneath it. Go to your colors and grab this color here, top of the fifth column. Over here, you will see this very tall line here, or this very tall point. It will cover up this tree quite a bit, so we'll probably need to move it just ever so slightly to the right. And that's just simply based off of how I've actually drawn the design. I could always go back if I really wanted to and move that tree, but I'm just going to adjust it based off of what's actually happened. So I'm going to draw in a straight line, hold my pen down. I'll make it a little bit wider at the bottom only, that's fine, just to give myself a bit of a trunk. And then we're going to go ahead and go down here. And then again, similar kind of fashion to what we did a second ago, where we are just going to draw in the tree. And then in a minute, we'll detail it by adding in snowy elements on top of some of the branches, because it's a bit closer towards us. We can add that extra little bit just to help it stand out, give it more focus and attention. So a little bit more outwards as they make their way towards the bottom. You know, you can have them flow in an outward fashion rather than down. Leave gaps as well, like in your branches. Like they do not need to be consistently the same all the way down. And then towards the bottom, let's really kind of make it a little bit skinnier, and then maybe just fill in the tree trunk just a little bit. Now I've got a little bit of a rogue one there running off, so I kind of need to counter that a little bit with some other rogue ones going a little bit further away as well, and that's fine. Yeah, I was initially looking at that going, that's way, way, way too far, but in actual fact, it's not too bad. Now I do want this to go a little bit lower down than what I've initially done. I want it to kind of cover up that little bit of the banking in behind it. There we go, lovely stuff. There's a bit of a crazy one here, just running a little bit off on its own, and that's fine. That's cool. Okay, cool. So we've got our kind of main focal tree here. What we're then going to do is create a new layer. Go to your colors and grab the middle of the same column, so middle of that fifth column. And then we're going to start working in some snowy elements on top. Now, what you're going to do is essentially just like draw on top of some of your branches and just draw in what will be like our snowy patches. So I can also do that in the body of the tree too. You know, I can add in like a few just on the left-hand side, not a lot on the left-hand side of the tree, focusing mainly on the right. I'm basically doing exactly the same movement, but just occasionally having to drop into like the middle of the tree just to add in some blue on top of some branches. But it's basically just doing exactly the same on top of already what you've done up the tree. And then as you get towards the top, you can just kind of coat it with some blue. Tiny bits on the left-hand side. I don't want too much over there. That's looking okay, but if you can cluster some together as well, so it looks like a big blanket of snow, it will look fantastic. We don't want too smaller details in here. That's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, other than the fact I just need to kind of thicken out a few of these on the branches. We really want it to depict like snow on there, like so. And then we will just simply go ahead and tap on that layer and alpha lock it. So we don't want to add any more to the tree. We're happy with the level of it. If we go to our colors and we grab the bottom of the same column, and then we go back in with a lovely brighter, whiter tone, you can go over the top then of the lines you've already done without having to fear or worry, should I say, about adding in any extra density to these elements. And you can just blanket in some highlight basically on top of your snow. So your snow is essentially the blue stuff, but then when you give it some light, it turns into a bit more of a whiter tone. So just covering up the whole of the top of the tree pretty much. I'm going to try and keep it in view for you now so you can just match up accordingly. A little bit occasionally on one or two that make their way around the tree, but ultimately that looks pretty good. We've got a nice blend of white and blue. Now from there, we can then start to add in some detail in the land because we've got our main tree. Now again, you can swipe them from left to right if you want to, maybe even use uniform, make a crime, and I'm going to scale mine up a little bit. I want it a bit taller. Now, as I said, we're going to add in some detail to the land. So let's start around the tree that we've already done. We're going to create a new layer in front of the land that it stands on top of and clip it to it. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to grab this color here, top of the second column there. And we're going to, as I said, work around it. Now, this is so simple to do in a sense. This big bit down here, I'm going to draw this in and just like bring in the snowy color like up into here. And then I'm going to kind of just allow that to kind of wobble its way through here with like a little bit like that, so much so that I can just drag and drop the color in. That's done. That is literally all it needs to be. And then you can come down here. You can sort of create like curves if you want to. Don't go all the way to the shoreline every single time. And then just kind of swoop the snow around that. I'm going to go sort of around the tree. And I'm going to create large blobs more so than smaller blobs, like, or lines, should I say, just so that they're all connecting. And there you go. That's all you need to do. Look, just a few streaks. Avoid getting too close to the tree, like if possible. Like you can go on the opposite side of the tree, i.e. behind it, but you don't want to add in anything too much in behind there. And again, that's all we want to do. And every single time we do this, we're going to tap on the layer and alpha lock it. We'll go to our colors and we'll add these two colors in, and then we'll do the same over here and here. So we'll go middle of the second column, brush, forester brush, size 13% looks pretty good. In down here where my sunlight landing on the edge. So you want to create like a lovely bright edge, like so, leaving the original color, which is a little bit kind of more purpley. And then we'll do the same over in the distance. We'll bring the brush size down. We'll just brighten up the edge there. Bring that brightness just a little bit round. There we go. And then we'll go to our colors and grab the bottom of the same column. And then you brighten up the edge over here. Lovely stuff. And then we will just about sort of 10%, a little bit brighter on these edges here. Brightening that up so the light casts and hits onto those edges like so. And again, we're going to just repeat that same philosophy everywhere on these two as well. So we'll just do exactly that first. We'll go to this layer here, create a new layer, tap on it, clipping mask it. Your color goes back to the top of the second column. Your brush goes back to the elfin stone. And then we just repeat and draw in some snow. Now this one's going to be even simpler. I'm going to kind of just follow the curve round a little bit like so. And then make sure I just go all the way around the top edge and drag and drop my color in. Then from there, I'll just create some like sort of variations over here, like some curves like that, just to create some variety in the land. But otherwise it's fairly flat and I get a good solid amount of snow. If you ever add too much, hold down on your eraser. It will switch it to the same brush. And then I can just kind of use the elfin stone to kind of take away a little bit of snow if I really want to. You know, you could do something like that as well if you want, like swoop it in there just to take away a little bit. Same process now. We just go tap on the layer, alpha lock it, go back to your colors and grab the middle of the second column. Brush, forester brush. Yeah, let's go about sort of 15%. Sun's coming from there. I can blanket on this lovely warm orange tone like so. Then go smaller with the brush after we change the color to the bottom of the second column. About 8 or 9%, and then just lovely little bit of yellow, just sort of just blending its way onto there, landing onto the land. Lovely. And then let's go further back again. So we tap on the layer for that land, create a new layer, tap on it and clipping mask it. Go to your colors, top of the second column. Brush wants to be the elfin stone again. And again, we'll just add in like a blanket. So you want to do the top of it first, like just drawing a line. And then from there, you can make up some more lines if you want. Like you can do something a little bit different this time. You know, I can have like a bigger kind of snippet here in the middle. And then maybe like a like a curve like there as well. Like I don't have to make them all the same. I could even like perhaps even include like a little bit of snow coming off from the right. You know, so there's a big separating area there. Then tap on the layer, alpha lock it, go to your colors, middle of the second column. Brush wants to be the forester. And again, that's coming onto here. It's a bit of a smaller area, so I'll keep the brush size sort of a little bit smaller. I'll just sort of layer in some lovely color on there. Then switch it to the bottom of the same column. Bring that brush size down to like a 4% and just add in that lovely bright highlight on the edge, just to really brighten it up. Now, there are other elements that we need to add to all of these pieces of land though. So while we're working here, let's just go ahead and tap on the base shape below. We'll tap on it and we will alpha lock it. We'll go to our colors and grab the top of the first column. Brush wants to go back to Elphinstone. And then from there, we can just go ahead and sort of draw in some kind of a darker shadowy tone along the edge. And to be honest with you, that just needs to be a bit of a wobbly line, with the exception of back there, because I've made like a cut here with this slice. I'm going to send a shadow up and into there. Likewise, I could do the same there as well, just to add in some, like maybe some like additional elements of detail, perhaps. And then while you're here, you can then go ahead and go to your colors and grab the bottom of the first column. Brush goes to Forester again. Keep the size nice and small, because just underneath your white snow, you can just layer in a little bit of light blue randomly, but just don't go too close to your shadow tones. So that should just soften the edge up a tiny, tiny bit. Again, just bring it forward. So go back to your layers. You're done with that layer of land. You can pinch them together if you like. Go up to the next piece of land and repeat. Tap on the layer, alpha lock it. We'll just do the light tone because we've already got it with our brush. I can just layer in a little bit of light blue here, a little bit in this little gap, just to soften it up, add in another bit of blue. And then go to your colors, go top of the first column. Brush back to Elphinstone, in similar fashion. Just add in a lovely shadow, like to portray like a bit of land and a little bit of rockiness perhaps. And, you know, again, if you've got any kind of things that you could bring the like shadow up and into, that'll look fine, that'll look great. Wrap that all the way around the edge where possible. Lovely stuff. Let's then make our way towards the next piece of land. And again, you can pinch them two together if you like. So we've then got the big curve shape. We'll tap on the layer, alpha lock it. While we're working with the dark blue, we'll just roll with that. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and create like a large shadow all the way down towards my water's edge. There we go. And then even perhaps, again, I can just bring in like a little bit of darkness, you know, up and into these little areas here, because there's like cutouts there for the snow. And then we will go ahead and go to our colors. Bottom of the first column, go to your brush and change it to Forester. And then you can add in like a light blue up here, like an 8%, just blending this in under there, soften it up nicely. I would probably leave up here. If anything, I'd probably go to my top left of the palette and ever so slightly add in a bit of a darker tone. You know, just a very subtle bit of shadow. There we go, in the background there. I think that looks really smart. Now, we will add in a shadow for this in just a second, but we're also going to add in another tree as well. So in fact, let's just do it while we're here. Let's swipe the tree to the left and duplicate it. The bottom one out of the two. If you've pinched them together, don't worry, just tap on the layer and alpha lock it. Go to your colors and go top left of the palette. Go back to the layer, tap on it and fill it. Then go ahead and grab your cursor. Flip it vertically and drag it down so it connects at the bottom. And then go ahead and grab distort. And then you can grab the middle node at the bottom. And you can literally just move that across, creating like a stretch shadow all the way off, like a really long pan. And then you can just kind of reconnect it at the bottom. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And then just go to the layer, tap on it and just bring its opacity down a little bit, like bring it down to like a 70%. I think that looks pretty smart. I'll tap away. And again, I'm going to go underneath my guide and create a new layer. Color still wants to be the top. In fact, we'll go top of the, let's go top of the fifth column. It's a little bit darker. Then Elphinstone, and then tap away. And then just here on the guide, you'll see a little bit of a simple guide to a tree. So start at the top. I need to make sure it's in view. Press down a little bit firmer as you get towards the bottom. And then again, I'm going to firm this up again. I'm going to let that one run off there. And this tree is going to be one of those ones that really does like point upwards. Like there's going to be lots of branches sort of breaking off from here, like a little bit more like this rather than the tree that we did on the opposite side. So you can run in like lots and lots of thin overlapping crisscrossing lines all over the place because it's winter, there's nothing on the trees anymore. You can just crisscross all over, and it's really, really simple. As long as you get the angle pointing upwards, you're nailing it. You're doing a fantastic job. So make sure to also, by the way, tag me in your finished creations when you're done, like on Instagram and Facebook. I love seeing your finished creations. I love seeing what you get up to, what things you create in your little world. And yeah, it's awesome to see. So please make sure to tag me in them when you're done. Instagram, Facebook, I've got a Facebook group if you want to come and join it as well. Links in the description as always. And there we go. I think we've got a lovely little tree there on the right hand side, which what we'll do is we'll go ahead and hold down on our eraser. That will go ahead and set it to the same brush as the elphinstone, and you can just little chop, push it into the snow, and then go to that layer, swipe it to the left and duplicate it. We can go ahead and grab our cursor and flip it vertically. To be honest with you, with this type of tree, I wouldn't normally do this, but just for repeating sake, we will connect it at the bottom and then drag it out over to the right, because essentially all you're going to probably be left to do is just create a line. Look how simple that is. Like, it's just a line off of there. So in fact, what we'll do is we'll just delete it and we'll create a new layer, drag it underneath the tree, set the opacity immediately down to like a 75%, and then just drag it out. I always like to kind of explain maybe what I'm doing. So let's go back to our brush, just so you can understand, well, why didn't you do it that way this time? You know, I want it to be clear and obvious as to what I'm doing, so that you know why. And then that's all you need to do, don't you? Just a very simple shadow, because it's only just a big tree trunk essentially. Then let's go ahead and just make sure our view is not obscured in any way. Let's turn off our drawing guide. Let's go to the top and turn off our guide as well, and you'll be left with your finished scene, and you can just take a look at it, take it all in as well, to be honest with you. But also you can maybe pick and choose to do other things. You could potentially add some more of the blue onto here. I wouldn't necessarily, because these are so pointing like upwards that there's not enough kind of surface area to add anything to. I think there's potential that you could go down to your background scene if you haven't already flattened this down, and you could just do it on your mountains if you wanted to, or create a new layer in front of your mountains. If you grab the top of the fourth column from the right and you keep your forester brush, this is the same color as the tree line. So if you set your brush size to like a 4 or 5%, you could just wiggle your pen along that tree line and kind of soften it out by just adding in like the same color and a bit of a kind of gradient in there as well. Like, it just should hopefully soften that down a little bit. And when you're done, you can pinch with 2 fingers, you can go full screen with 4, and you end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them, like Instagram and Facebook. And come and check me out over on Patreon. I've got a catalogue of over 160 exclusive tutorials that are not available here on YouTube. They are only available on Patreon. Again, links in the description down below. You get 3 additional tutorials every single month. Your name featured in videos, sneak peeks, early access, much, much more. So check it out using the link again in the description. And if you like this video here on YouTube, you'll love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.